Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is time. You know what it's time for?
It says my mic is muted. Still
You got
counting down.
man, you gotta get your lag right, bro. That's not good. So check this out. It is now Tuesday. It's a little bit after 8, and it's about time we actually talk about the hobby, what's going on in the hobby. And we got a couple of different topics today. We got an interesting person to go hop on the podcast. But before we bring this person on, so check this out. I don't know why I have a lag. I hear somebody in the background. Is that me or somebody else? I
It
don't
was
know.
you.
No, it wasn't me. So check this out. Last week we had Card Carver on the show last week, and we talked about arts in the collectible space. And I thought that was a really good topic to talk about. And today I feel like we're gonna talk about a lot of other stuff. I feel like I had so many different ideas I wanted to talk about that I kind of wanted to talk about. A very important topic that's dear to my heart.
Everything's dear to your heart, man.
No, seriously though. I
Hey, hold
mean,
on, time out.
what?
Hey, Joe said he got a mail day, man. You mailed his stuff out?
Hold on. Oh, Joel. Hey, shout out to Joel, man. I sent him out something last week. I missed out on it. I actually missed. I asked 2 other people I did not give out this stuff to, but I definitely got this stuff over here that I will be shooting out. Thanks to everybody that's actually watching on Instagram, everybody that's watching on YouTube as well. If you're not watching on YouTube, you're missing out because guess what? You won't be in the chat. I won't be able to really interact with you like I would like to. So feel free to go over to YouTube, click and subscribe to the channel, jump in, and you can talk to me and Kobe Collector the right way. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So what are we doing? You ready?
Hey, man, I just want to give a quick shout out to the homies in Detroit.
Oh yeah.
It's like I hang out with you every weekend now, man. I'm gonna miss you more every weekend when we don't hang out.
No, that's not
But
true.
shout out to John, shout out to Dylan, shout out to Jesse, man, gracious host while we're out there, had a blast. And man, didn't know what to expect out of Detroit. I think that was the first weekend out there at the Detroit Spectacular, hosted by the Chicago Spectacular team, and it turned out a lot better than I anticipated, man. So just shout out to that team and shout out to those dudes that that brought us in and showed us a good time.
Yeah, those guys are JJ's pop-up shop. He actually just sent us a message on Instagram saying, great meeting you guys in Detroit. Really love both of you guys' energies and style. We appreciate that. GA Car Dealer, when we go on to talk about Culture Collision. We will have time to talk about Culture Collision. It'll probably be after the Nationals, to be honest with you guys. Kind of keeping a lot of things under the wraps until after that, at the Fanatics Fest and all these other things that are going on. But you're going to love it. If you've never been there before, you'll enjoy it. We're going to turn this thing up a notch. But first, before we really, really get into the show, you ready to drop it? Hey, now that's the right way. That's the right way we start this show off. And I ain't gonna lie to you, I'm really excited. We got a really cool it's DJ Sports Cards. Had an absolute blast. Appreciate you guys coming out. Appreciate you. And man, we really had a good time out there in Detroit. They gave us great hospitality, took us to their favorite restaurants, and I enjoyed it. It was really good food. I mean, I don't know. I didn't really have much expectation for Detroit, but I did really well. Can you hear me, Mark?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I want to make sure before I keep yapping off.
Nah,
All right.
you're still gonna yap, but
Oh,
but
stop.
I tell you what, man, I like the weather over there. Now I'm not gonna stay there for the snow, but if the weather's like it was this past weekend, I'll go there every weekend.
Hey, that's what's up, man. Appreciate you again, Joel. Thanks for the mail day. We got a special guest on. We haven't had this guy on probably over a year. So I'm probably gonna bring him in, especially on this first topic, because I like to think he's a very smart person. A lot of people probably think he's crazy, raspy. I feel like I'm it's like a rap album about to drop in a minute, but basically this guy's kind of really aggressive at sometimes. But guess what? He's still my friend, and I think he's very smart. Um, and without further ado, what we bringing? Wiz the Collector.
Yo, 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 what's good? What's going on, fellas? How are you
Wiz,
doing?
I feel like I spent the whole weekend with you, Wiz.
Nah, I mean, I didn't get to go out to eat with y'all, man. But man, DJ Sports Cars, man, hell of a host, man. John is a wild party guy. Even though I
Yep.
didn't party with him, but I could see that all in him.
That's right. All right. So, I mean, I guess you got a chance to go to the Indiana show, and then you got a chance to go to the Detroit show. And I know me and Mark kind of talked about it. I know we don't want to make this a major topic of discussion today, but aren't we kind of tired of big shows going against each other?
Man, I think it definitely took away from each other because it leaves, even for me, I was in Detroit Thursday and Friday, and then I went to the Spectacular on Saturday. And by the time Saturday came, anything that was in the cases, you already knew it was either overpriced or it was something that nobody really wanted. Because the repackers and stuff have already been through the shows, but yeah, I think that those shows being 4 hours away from each other, definitely killed each other's vibe, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I'm actually about to move you over here to the middle. So,
Whatever.
I know he's over there cockeyed. He's like he's
hey,
scared. Hey, he got his best Martin Lawrence impersonation going on right now. Bad
hey,
Boys came out this weekend, man. I think he's stealing their due away from them.
yeah, yeah.
Man, I
No, that's
haven't seen it
crazy.
yet.
No, I haven't seen it yet either, man. I gotta wait for the wife to go ahead and get on so we can go ahead and watch that movie. But I heard great things. They broke big records this weekend with Bad Boys. But I definitely wanted to, before we kind of keep talking about that, I really want to make sure I want to stay focused on these topics. So one of the first topics that I wanted to talk about was, are we heading for self-destruction? A lot of people have a lot of negative stuff about the space, and I know, I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm one of the people who, man, I ain't gonna lie. I kind of feel the gray clouds a little bit over the space a little bit, right? I am a little worried, but I'm not worried for like companies like Fanatics and Tops. I'm worried about the collectors. I'm worried that we don't see enough collectors to like, we got it, because I've preached this before in the past. Somebody has to hold the cards, right? I don't know if we have enough people who are willing to hold cards.
Man, I'm gonna say there is. I mean, we were in Detroit this last weekend. I think that's the epitome of where the collector's at. I mean, at shows you're gonna see it. Yeah, you have dealers. Yeah, you have repackers walking around buying stuff out.
Yeah,
But man, it's as many repackers as I could count, as many true collectors as I can count. I mean, I remember sitting there next to you and the people from Toronto. You did a big old deal on that LeBron card, and that didn't
yeah,
go to a repacker or
that's
reseller.
true.
That
That's
went to a
true.
true collector, you
But
know.
those are one and few though, right?
Yeah,
As a
but
vendor
that's
at a
what I'm
show,
saying.
so
I mean,
so
if you counted 5 people that were walking around asking for 80 to 85% of comps,
yeah,
you had the same amount of people that were walking around paying full comps on everything. So I'm gonna say I'm not gonna sit here and say that we're heading to self destruction. I think that we have enough true collectors out there that are combating right the percentage chasers.
I
Right,
mean,
that's what I'm gonna
how many
call them.
people you actually think is out here collecting cards? I mean, like realistically, we go to a show every weekend for the last 4 years. How many people do you actually think you interact with that are actually collectors versus people who are just buying to flip for profit? And I'm not knocking
So
people for flipping for profit, but it's just, I challenge people that flip for profit to hold cards, because I think that there are cards that are worth holding on to. And a lot of times I see people who get great, amazing cards, and I'm thinking to myself, like, dang, you'll probably never own that card again. And a lot of these guys are like, well, I don't care. I made a little bit of money. I moved on. And that's fine in the rationale. But to make us more sustainable, you don't think we and I guess it goes back to my original statement, right? How many people did you interact with versus how many people you sold to,
so
like, were actually true collectors?
So, and I'm gonna let Wiz talk, right? I don't want to
Yeah,
cancel him
No,
out
no, no.
because
You
I
good.
know
You
he's
good,
gonna have
bro.
a good take.
yeah,
But this is what I believe that the true problem, right, with the hobby in regards to the collector space. The buy-in is so high, right?
yeah,
I don't know how many people I had come up to the table and they were looking for Caitlin Clark, right? And so I had a Caitlin Clark card. right?
Sure did.
The only problem is that it was $2,500,
I
right?
agree. Yeah.
Not a lot of people can afford to fork out $2,500 for some cardboard, right? And so I think that's where the difference, right? That's where the problem with most collectors out is that, like me
Price
for
points.
myself, I don't hold many cards under $100, right? I just
Yeah.
don't. And that's where, like, from 50 to $500 is where you're gonna find the mainstream collector at, right? That
So
doesn't mind holding a card.
all right, so you brought up an interesting topic, and I know we got to let Wiz talk, but that's why I wanted to talk about this, because there's a lot of passion in this conversation. There's a lot that can be said in this conversation. But here's the reality, though, right? $500 cards and under are so liquid because of repackers, right? How can that person buy something that they really, really want to have as a card that they can actually collect from you? Because you just sat here and said that the guy wanted a Caitlin Clark card, but it was $2,500. And had you maybe had a cheaper, inexpensive version, right, which is maybe it's a base auto, maybe it's a raw auto, maybe it's a base non-auto, right? Maybe that card costs $500. They can afford that. But the reality is as soon as you got it, it's already sold. So how can we now? I know eBay is always an option, but there's no fun in buying cards off eBay. I'm sorry to let you guys know. Yeah, the chase is fun, but being able to actually buy cards at a show, I think to me is funner than actually just going on eBay. But go ahead, Mark and Wiz.
Good,
You
good.
you up with?
Oh yeah, no. What I was gonna say is that I just think that in the market today, man, to collect is like it's super volatile. You might buy a card, man, to collect it, and it's like you really. And my thing is, some people call themselves collectors, but they're really kind of like long-term investors. And I think that in that aspect, you buy something, man, and it's going up and down and fluctuating, or you buy that Caitlin Clark card, and it's already the hype has already got the card so high. It's kind of like where the buy-in is at. I think that a person that wants to collect it at the end of the day, they'll end up losing. So it's like, and then I also think that a lot of people
No, I disagree already with you, Wiz. The collector doesn't always lose.
No. I was gonna say I think that more experienced collectors, because when you first come into space, wanting to be a collector, like what you told me when I first came into space, man, you don't know what good cards are, and these people are trying to collect. Like Caitlin Clark signed an exclusive with Panini, so it's like at the end of the day, those Topps cards, those are not collectors' cards, or they are collectors' cards. But I guess a good collector or a true collector would understand that, and they'll wait for Panini because that's the stuff that holds the value. I think it goes back to what you were saying before. I think you said this on this space. Shout out to Prizm guys, man. Since day one, this is a sidebar. Since day one, I watched this joint, and not just because Ralph is my man's or Mark Kobe Collector is my man's, but they really drop jewels, bro. And that's what I was telling DJ Sports Cards, man. Where else can you interact with people? Ask questions, man. A lot of times you hit up people on Instagram about cars, man. They leave you on red. Here, you could just type in the chat, and somebody going to answer you within the next 2 to 3 minutes. But back to what I was saying is people don't really know what to collect. So I think it goes back like what you said though. It's the educational piece. Like even today, I collect differently than I collected, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Like I look in there, like last year I went to Coach Collision, and I always put my PC on display, and I put the stuff out, and I was ashamed of it. Like, I'm saying not really ashamed, but I'm like, what is this? So I'm opening the box. I'm thinking it's gonna be fire because I don't really look at it every day. I'm just adding to it. I open it up. I'm like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? So my mindset today is like to correct that. I think that the space, I don't know, bro. Just like anything, man. I think it's gonna go way up, and then it's like we're gonna go off that cliff. I don't know when that is. I think that the repackers are good for the space, but anything that's good, too much of anything good will end up being bad.
So I'm actually just chiming in. I'm sorry, Mark.
Cupid Card Lounge, though, it says as an experienced collector, I understand to never purchase during hype, only purchase off season, right?
Dang, man, you cut me off. I was gonna read that, but good one.
Oh,
go ahead. Keep going. No, keep going.
No, and I was just gonna say that's part of being an educated, experienced collector, right? Like a true collector. You know when the peak seasons are. You know not to buy the product when it first comes out.
Exactly.
But there's a catch-22 though.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. I was about to say something about that. Go ahead. Keep going.
There's some times where the low numbered cards come out, and if you don't hit them as soon as they come out, you might not see them for a while, right? Like there's sometimes like golds, right? There's only 10 of them, right? One on
Mm-hmm.
ones out of 5 emeralds, right? There's only 5. There's only one of them. So once them things go, unless it went to a flipper who thinks that he's gonna make more money down the line, you might not see that car for 2, 3, 4 years,
and,
right?
and
Yep.
my thing is too. Sorry to cut you off, Mark, but like even Wimby's prices, those are not flippers buying that. Those are some. I
Mm-mm.
guess they're collectors. You
No,
know what I'm
those are
saying? And
collectors. Some of those
yeah.
prices are definitely
So
collectors.
so that's what I'm saying. So it's like if a car is selling for 500K or 20,000, 30,000 for the golds, then it's like where I mean, in my mind, they may be headed for self destruction because it's like Victor has to really be that hype that people are saying. You know what I'm saying for that to even pan out. So,
Well,
but I think it's every year though.
I think there's two different things to say. I agree with what Cupid's Card Lounge said. I definitely agree with what he's saying in terms of learning how to buy, being a seasoned collector. We'll say seasoned collector.
Yeah.
You understand it in the beginning. There's hype, but like Mark literally sat here and said, there are certain times where you will buy a card and you'll never see it again because it disappears off the face of the earth. I remember in 2018, I had the opportunity to buy the Prizm Black 101 Ja Morant card. I bet you a lot of people don't even know who owns it. I had the opportunity to buy that card a long time ago and missed out on the opportunity to buy it. And then I don't think anybody's seen that card since. And so
Yeah.
if it's a card that's that rare, then of course you have to take advantage of the opportunity. Even what's crazy about that, I didn't like the price back then, right? But here's the irony. I can't get that card for the same price I could have bought it back then for. And that card, I think somebody offered me that card, and I ain't gonna lie to you, it was funny. I remember somebody offered me that card for $30,000. Prizm Black 101 Ja Morant. I don't think you can buy that card right now. I'm pretty dang on sure you couldn't buy that card for $30,000 right now. So, and I say that to say that I think as we become more of a seasoned collector, and it's a good conversation to have because we want to encourage people to be collectors. So if you want to be a collector, which is why we drop these gems on you,
You coming
if
in?
you want to be a collector, be okay with letting the Prizm orange ride. Be okay with letting that blue ice ride. But when you see those Prizm golds and the 101 Prizm Black 101s, if you want a chance to get those cards, you're going to have to pay to play. You're going to have to pay to play. And sometimes that's more of a gamble than anything, which actually leads us to our next conversation in today's chat, which is, are people afraid of taking risk? Right?
Well, the one thing I can say, right, is there's a lot of people taking some risk on Wimby right now, right? I
Woo!
think I
Exactly.
think the dynamic of Wimby has really changed the kind of the culture of the hobby. Like when have we seen golds, right? We haven't seen golds go for 100K, 200K in a while, right? I think the 9.5 Wimby gold Prism gold went for 150K, right?
Yep.
We haven't seen that in a minute, right? And even with Banchero, who ran Rookie of the Year, made it to the playoffs for the first year, he ain't selling like Wimby's selling, right?
No, he
And when
not.
we look at the draft coming up, right, nobody's really jumping out the screen at me that
So no
says, "Man,
Bronny?
that's
You
the
don't
guy
want
I'm
Bronny?
gonna go collect."
You don't want
But
Prizm Black 101 Bronny?
nah, man, I can't even sell a jersey numbered orange auto of him right now for any money. So it's not going to sell. So the
Right.
thing I do like where the hobby is going though, right, is that the NFL, as long as they get their players to sign, right, and I don't know if the products that were going to come out after this NFL draft, um, if all the quarterbacks are going to sign. Remember last year, we didn't have no quarterbacks,
Yeah.
right? Well, we did, right? But they weren't signing. And so this year, hopefully, all the quarterbacks that were drafted, I think it was like 6 or 7 that were drafted in the first round, that they signed. And I think that that's what drives the prices in the NFL much more than they were driven this year with all the top guys not signing. So, but yeah, people are afraid to take risks, man, at times because like Wiz said, the hobby is so volatile right now. Where
Mm-hmm.
one week a car can sell for $200, and next week a bad comp comes out and it goes for $100. So you just lost $100 by just sitting on the card.
I
And
agree.
I think what people need to understand in regards to that too, though, is that anytime you have two big shows in one weekend, that's a lot of people who normally buy cards on eBay that they're out of the space because shows take up so much time and so much attention. You don't have much time to focus on anything but what's in front of you. So I'll say that to say this, man. The only true way to get around the whole afraid to take risks is don't be afraid to be the comp sometimes, right? Be able to have
That's what I'm about
vision.
to
Be
say it
able to
again.
have
Hey,
vision, right?
say it again for the people in the back, please. Please say
Don't
it again for the people in the back.
don't be afraid to be the comp.
I don't think it's one more time. One more time.
Nah, man,
T-shirt
we ain't
coming
gonna.
soon. I promise you
I know
that.
you a DJ
T-shirt is
over there,
coming
man.
soon. Say it one more time, please. Say it again.
Yeah, just don't ever be afraid to be the comp, man. And I think we've said this from episode 1, day 1, man. Collect what you like, right? Buy what you like, and you'll never lose any money, man. Honestly. And if you're doing this stuff for a living, be able to be creative, right? Because everybody's out there buying the same exact thing right now, right? Everybody wants case hits, everybody wants downtowns, everybody wants kabooms, right? But what happens when all those dry out, right? What are you going to buy after that, right?
Yep.
So be able to have some vision, be able to prospect a little bit, right? We
Man.
see the baseball guys do this stuff all the time. We see stuff going for massive record numbers. So to me, again, and I tell Ralph all the time, he's one of the best guys I know that has a lot of vision, right? Forward thinking to be able to prospect, buy guys early. Look, I talked to Ralph before everybody was buying Kyler Murray. Now everybody, like you couldn't find a Kyler Murray in the house this last weekend because everybody was buying them up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So being able to kind of forward think and know what's on the horizon, man, and then take those risks, man.
Yep. So Joe brought up an interesting point because I'm gonna let you talk to Wiz. Problem is these clowns selling their PSA 9s for under raw, and that's a different conversation, but it still aligns with the whole idea of taking risk, right? It's because the reality is people like sealed cards over PSA 9s now because people like to speculate that it could potentially be better than the PSA 9. So for the people in the back of the room that like to sell PSA 9s for less than raw, stop doing that because that's not real. That's not how things go. You mean to tell me a raw, exquisite LeBron James rookie is worth more raw than a PSA 9? I'm so sorry to tell you it's not true. A PSA 10 Mickey Mantle did what? But it raw did what? Let's be real, guys. We have to start using our heads and actually start understanding what's going on in the space. And things will stop once we allowing these things to happen. I know the true test is really like let something run on auction. So whatever it sells for is what it sells for. But I think that we have to kind of hold ourselves accountable for what's going on. And it's really unfortunate to see what's going on with this space. And then like when you do speculate, right? Like there's nothing wrong with being the new comp. Because if I know new information that leads me to believe that this person is going to play well, and I'm okay with paying the new value, be okay with that too. And I think, let's see, Lewis, and I'm going to let you speak after this, Wiz. Lewis, Striving for 10 says Lucas cards still sell for more than Tatum. And also he sells for more than Jaylen Brown too. So please let me
Brown's
understand.
at the back of the boat right now,
Bro,
though, man.
Jaylen Brown and Jaylen Brown won MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals and probably is going to win the MVP of the Eastern Conference. I'm sorry, the NBA Finals when it's all said and done. So that's just my 2 cents on that. And Wiz, go ahead. Feel free to keep going.
Yo, no. It says, are people afraid of taking risks? Well, I think that, ever since I got into this space, man, I think everybody in this space, man, is it's just like follow the leader. You know what I'm saying? Whatever anybody's doing, that's what everybody's doing. Everybody's buying downtown. Everybody's buying kabooms. Even with the raw selling more than the 9, it's kind of like, because in the car space, a part of this space is if it's not broke, don't fix it. Or when you're in Rome, do what the Romans do. But I feel like, man, the people that always take risk are always going to come out on top. Like, I don't know. For me, man, and shout out to Rolf Cards. I study a dude like that. You know what I'm saying? I watch him. Like everybody went to the repack. Everybody started buying bulk cards. This man has never stopped what he was doing. He's always constantly buying stuff that doesn't really have a comp. People don't know what it's worth and asking for the most. You know what I'm saying? And I think that at the end of the day, man, those people, like I watch Ralph, I watch Mark, I watch anybody, like even us splitting that card or whatever. I watch people. When you take risks, when you're not afraid to take risks, you'll get the results more than anyone else. If you run around here paying 90, 95% to get 100%, there was no risk involved. So you're going to constantly make that 5%. If I go out there and say, hey, dude wants a Wimby, he wants 20K on it, I look at it, I say, hey, this made PSA 10. I
Yeah.
10 it, now I'm making $20,000 on a wrist that on a card that potentially I would have made 5% on, or even one-on-ones where there's a dude that rolls with us, and Ralph loves to make an example of this, but there's a dude that rolls with us. He had an opportunity to buy an Ant-Man. I think it was the second year one-on-one or something like that for 7K. The same card, somebody PSA 10'd it, and then they PSA 10'd it, put it on auction, and it sold for $26,000. That man could have made $20,000, but he's one of those people. You know what I mean? That's a good guy, bro. Don't get it twisted. He's newer in the space, so he's on the follow the leader time. You know what I'm saying? So it's at the end of the day, because he wouldn't take a risk, he threw $20,000 down the toilet because he was unsure.
Absolutely.
But what I can tell you and what I've learned from people around me is like, if that car was 7,000, what's your worst case scenario? You sell it for 6,000. You sell it. Man, I watch C Blizz. C Blizz throws 10K in the toilet. So you can't risk $1,000 to make 20K. Man, come on. These are things that people go to work every day, man, for like $200. That's what I'm saying. So it's like these type of scenarios are what people wish for, they dream for. So my thing is, man, I think even for you, Mark, for you, Ralph, Prizm guys, like, man, we all take risks, doing this full time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's like, man, if you want different results, man, when like everybody says, but when everybody's going left, man, I think you should go right, man. Take risks. I mean, do the repack thing, keep your money flowing and things like that, but take risks too along the way.
All right, so somebody just brought up an interesting point. All right, so Rob, I'm gonna let you speak, but I just wanted to embrace this because this is a really good point to have a conversation about. Rob mentioned if you don't have the money to risk, don't do it. All right, so if y'all want to talk about that real quick, which I think is a really good point, right? Because people just think that Prizm God was just all rich, wealthy overnight.
Bro, you Michael Jordan's cousin, bro. You Michael Jordan's cousin, bro. You Michael Jordan's cousin, bro.
All right,
stop
playing,
bro.
Man.
Yeah, you're right.
Stop playing, bro.
Right. So overnight, not an overnight success. Trust me, I struggled. I still make mistakes. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to be the best version of myself. And through those mistakes, I continue to keep growing. That's why we had these conversations. But Rob brought a great point because I think it's important for people to understand that staying in your lane and not necessarily spending. If you have to do what you have to do to get to the next level, feel free to do what you got to do. Buy a card, short a card, because Rolf, I've mentioned in the past, there's nothing wrong with taking a profit if you're going to take a profit. But you also could take a risk. Like in 2017, I was scared to take a risk on a guy named Patrick Mahomes when I didn't buy his Contenders championship ticket, 1 of 1 for $6,000, and I offered the guy $5,500. Didn't even know who the guy really was. Wasn't really buying football at the time. I was really more in basketball. I didn't want to take that risk, right? Now, what is that card worth? What was it worth during peak? And I think that even if I held the card for 2-3 years, I don't even know if I could have necessarily afford to. So to answer your question, if you can't afford to hold it, just if you have an opportunity to make profit, move on. That's my 2 cents on that, and you guys can probably address that.
So there was a question, and I'm not going. He waved at me. So my Arthur Damas, right, my cousin, he asked a question: if you have $5K, do you invest it all in one card of Wimby, or do you spread it around on multiple cards? Right. So my take on that is depends on what your budget is, right? So if you have the liquidity to be able to afford a 5K and don't worry about if you make money off that 5K or not, then I say sure, go for it, right? But we say it all the time, depending on what your bankroll is, right? You can only buy what your bankroll tells you to buy, right? Yeah. So if you have a limited funds, of course, you can spread it around wherever the heck you want to spread it around at, right? But we see it all the time when we look at what our inventory looks like and it starts to look heavy on one player. We say that we got to pivot a little bit, not necessarily say we're going to sell out completely of this player, right? But we go from having like, $5,000 in a guy, right? And we're like, man, I'm over leveraged on this guy. If something happens, I might, lose too much. So now we start to mitigate our risk. Right. Mm-hmm. And it don't have to be $5,000. It could be $1,000 into a guy. Right. Now you're saying, well, man, I have too much into this guy. Maybe let me offset into someone else, right, to offset my risk. So it's all depending on what your budget is, man. So if you can afford to put $5,000 in one guy, right, and it goes down to 3,500, right, are you going to be okay with that? Right, as opposed to if you put $1,000 in the guy, right, and it goes down 25%, now you're only losing $250. Right now, I do believe in Wemby. I do believe in what he did this past season. He put up incredible numbers. I think he exceeded the hype in my standard for my standards, right? But it's all going to depend on longevity. We done seen so many players come in who are gifted out of this earth, right? And they get hurt, right? Or they're we've seen it with Derrick Rose, right? Derrick Rose's ceiling was so high, then he gets hurt, right? And now it's not as high as it would have been after his MVP season in Chicago, right? And we're just focusing on NBA right now, but it can be said about any sport, right?
Yeah.
And so I just say this, man, know your limit, right? And we always say your lane, right? That's why on the freeway, there's a slow lane and there's a fast lane, right? If your car can't go 100 miles an hour, right, it tops out at 80 and you have your pedal to the floor trying to get to 100, right? You're going to wear your car out, right? You're going to wear yourself out. Right? So don't worry about the cars passing you on the left. Don't worry about the cars passing you on your right. Understand where you're at, right, in life. Understand what your budget is. And as long as you understand that and not worrying about how fast the cars are going to the left and the right, you're going to be successful, right?
Sure.
And don't let somebody else determine what success is for you. You set that goal for yourself and you obtain the success that you set out for yourself.
Yo, can I touch on what Rob said though? If you don't have the money to risk, don't do it. And my question would be like, when would you really ever have the money? You know what I'm saying? I think that at the end of the day, man, it's like you have to step out on faith to do something. And I feel like with that mindset, you know what I'm saying? And I understand, you know your finances better than anybody else. But I think that if you can afford 1,000, maybe you do 500. Or if you can do, 2K, maybe do 1,000. And my thing is, don't just buy a card and sit back, man. You have to. The biggest thing that when I first came into space was people tell me you have to remain active, bro. You can't just buy a card and say, well, I did it. I bought that Wemby for 1,000. Like, no, bro, go out, get active. Go find better Wembys. See if you can take that Wemby and trade it and get better value for other Wembys or other players you like, man. Just keep going. I think the issue is that a lot of people do one thing and say, I did that. A lot of people want to get into the card space and a lot of people like, well, I bought cards. I did this. You know what I'm saying? I bought that one card, remember? But it's like, bro, you didn't stay active. What about them shows? What about them shows that were close to your home that you didn't go to? I don't know. I think it's just bigger than just throwing money around, bro. It's a lot of, you got to move around. You have to move.
I agree. So Aegon Collectibles actually brought up a really good point. Failure is the greatest teacher and taking a risk is the greatest in growing you, which actually leads us to our next topic, which is actually wanted to talk about, have you ever taken a loss in sports cards? I know it's a topic that a lot of people don't necessarily talk about a whole lot because everybody in social media, we always talk about how much we win, right? We always want you to know we're doing great, right? But what about those moments when we're not doing great, which actually coincides with what we're talking about, even with success, right? A part of the success, failure is our greatest teacher. And a lot of times, like you've heard me say a lot of times, is I'll make mistakes. I'll grow from my mistakes. I don't do those mistakes anymore. And I preach that to my friends, my family, and people that ask me questions about how to become successful in this space. I will answer a couple more questions as we get later towards the show. I think the most interesting one is that Martin Lawrence in the middle, and I'm going to say yes, it is.
Yeah, that's what I saw, man.
Hold up, bro. Nah, bro. Chill out.
Bad boy,
baby. You want to watch that movie tonight, man. Hey, I will say this, man, and shout out to all the people on YouTube, man. We love you guys. We actually prefer you guys being on YouTube because your comments later on that are going to be helpful for other people are going to appear in the chat whenever you want to watch this. If you're not able to catch us live. But I want to say shout out to the people on IG too, man. We got a following over here. I think it's been up to 20 people at one point, right? So I just want to say shout out. I love the interaction over there. Hopefully we're answering your questions in a timely manner. I do see the what do you guys think about top defensive players card?
We'll talk about it.
Yeah,
we'll get to it we'll get it towards the end. Go ahead, keep going though.
But in regards to taking a loss, man, I always take losses, man.
Tell us a story.
I'm a homer at heart, right? I'm honestly a homer at heart, and I think Wiz tells me all the time, man. I was looking at your story, and man, you buy with your heart, right? And to be honest with you, sometimes I do, right? And sometimes I'm having some vision, right? Or having problems with my vision. I don't know, but it's one of those things,
For
man,
sure.
where I've held a car too long thinking that it was going to sell for more and ended up taking a loss. Like there was a Jalen Green card that I had, right? Panini one. You were looking at what some of the other cards were going for in the previous set. I think an Ant-Man did like 20K. I think the John Morant gold did 20K, right? And I'm holding this Jalen Green, who's top of the class in 2021, thinking that it was going to go for 20K, right? I picked the card up for like 3,500 bucks. 2 weeks later, I get offered $10,000, and I'm like, nah, I think I can get 12K. I think I can get 14K. Man, I ended up that 10K offer went away. I couldn't get 7,500. Then it went to 4,500. 6 months later, I'm still holding on to the card, and I ended up having to wholesale that thing out for like 1,500 bucks, man. And so I'm looking at myself, right? You always got to look at the man in the mirror, and they're life lessons, right? I tell people all the time, man, if you're living, you're learning, right? And the thing about life, you try not to make the same mistakes twice, right? And so don't be afraid to take a small profit. And heck, right? If you know how you move and how you operate, don't be afraid to take a small loss at times, because you know what? Sometimes you got to get ahead of that curve to marginalize the loss, right? And understand that you can take that money and run a lot further with it than you
Yeah.
can on a car that's moving backwards, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, of course. I mean, we're always going to take losses in this game, but in order to be successful, you just got to marginalize them as much as you can.
Go ahead, Wiz. Talk
Oh yeah,
to
no, no.
us.
Man, I bought Trey Lance. You know what I'm saying? And by when he went down, I think I had like 3 flawless cards or something like that. And it's crazy. Me and Dylan was having this conversation when y'all left. We had this conversation, man. I was telling him like, because John's outtake, he'll hold it, and I was telling Dylan, man, like, yeah, bro, on because he has a Hutch Black Shimmer, and I was telling him like, bro, that's a card that you hold on to. You do exactly what he's saying, or if you don't get your price, you know what I'm saying, you can be more bullish on that card. But anything else, man, like if you're losing on it, bro, hurry. My thing is, man, I run into that loss. Like whatever the loss is, I'm running to it. Let me go ahead and get this card going so I can move forward. Because like bro says, I could do more with that money than I could do with that card. I can make up whatever I lost with the money. Like not, and that's just me saying small losses. Like I've never bought something extremely big and lost 10K immediately or lost 10K down the line. But I just feel like that same principle goes with that though. The sooner you can get the money out that card, the sooner you can start making up that loss that you took. A lot of
I
people are like,
agree.
oh, I don't need the money. I'll sell it when I want to, or the car is gonna go back up, or I get it. I get it. But it's like if you want to keep going, then it's like because that's like Walmart telling you go to the store. I'm not putting nothing on clearance. So I'm not putting anything on sale because we're Walmart. We have $1 billion and we don't need the money. But we know that they will put things on clearance. They will put things on sale. And I mean, I think 90, maybe 80% of people that go to shows that set up, they're a business. So to say those type of things, I think is real foolish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like you guys know my biggest loss that I probably have had. And I've lost on a few. I mean, at the end of the day, one of my biggest losses I had, I bought and I'm sure there's tons of us out there. So, you hear about those guys who bought, let's say what, exquisite LeBron James for $1 million or $2 million, right? And then they got as low as 200,000 to 300,000, or even anybody that bought a Michael Jordan PSA 10 for 600,000 and they got as low as $150,000. Can you guys imagine what that feels like?
I
First and
hope they're all
foremost,
rich.
Well, here
hey,
goes the deal. It's different, right? It's all in perspective, right?
hold on. I was about to say, so I was going to allude
Oh,
to
go
my
ahead,
point
man.
though. I was going to
Drop
allude
that
to my
jewel.
point though. I was trying to allude to my point. So here's the thing. As a collector, so I actually I kind of I had the same type of situation with like Mark, where I would buy with my heart. The one card I bought with my heart was the exquisite LeBron James rookie card. I bought it to keep it, and in my mind I was like, oh my gosh, I finally got to the plateau that I've always wanted to get to. You know, I worked so hard to get here. Now I finally got the card that I really, 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 really wanted. I couldn't afford the $1 million one, but I bought the card that cost $130,000. I sold that card. Hindsight, once I realized that the market was going backwards, for $75,000. So I lost around $50,000. The funny thing about that story is I had the opportunity to move that car for $200,000 in trade, and I did not do it. And even before I even sold it on PWCC, I had an opportunity to sell it for 110. I felt like Franklin from Snowfall. So,
And
hey, so hindsight, right? Like I think we have to be able to accept those losses, but at the same time, though, if you have the money, and this is why I'm about to flip it. If you have the money, because I always preach to my friends that the man with the money always wins. If I did not need to sell that card, right? Or if I said, you know what, I'm going to eat this loss, I'm going to keep this card, I have an opportunity to buy another one. Later on, which was probably like last year, I had an opportunity to buy a BGS 9.5 of that same exact exquisite LeBron James, in which you would not believe it, I could have got it for $60,000. A 9.5 of the same card that I just had for $60,000, and I had a BGS 9 and I bought it for 130, and I sold it for a fraction less than what I actually paid for it. The moral of the story is if you have the money, you can actually buy more. Because if
Yeah.
you're that guy that bought a PSA 10 Jordan, chances are you ain't hurting for money. You can buy it for 600,000 and be like, you know what, I'm going to keep it. So guess what? If you're able to buy another one, maybe you buy the one for $150,000. Maybe you get lucky, you buy one for $100,000. Now what you're doing is you're mitigating your risk and your leverage and averaging off. That's some advice that I give to the people who have money who can afford to actually hold cards. For the people who can't afford to hold cards, of course, we got tough decisions to make. But like Wiz says, sometimes you just got to run for it and just take the loss, move on, take it on the chin, and keep going. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh yeah, now you're taking baby out the corner, man.
Man, no, man. I had to allude to my I had to bring
Look,
it, I had to bring it full swing, baby. I had to bring it full
it's all
swing.
it's all about look. It's all about your budget, right? And it's all relative to your budget. Like if you have the means to buy a $750,000 card, right? The odds are that you can afford if that car goes to zero, it's probably not going to hurt you as much, right? So it's all about budget. It's all about percentages of budget and risk. Your risk appetite. So I just say that to say this, man. This is in essence, right, a gamble at times where cards are very volatile, right? There's not too many cards in the space unless we're talking about vintage that are already staples and they don't move too much up and they don't move too much down, right? So some of the safest risk in the hobby, right, is always going to be your veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll just say, understand, do some research before you buy, and understand that there's a potential that that card could go down quicker than it can go back up.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if you do have the means, I mean, we saw it, right? In the down market, it was the excellent opportunity to buy, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
talked about risk in the last segment. Like, how many people, if you had the opportunity to buy an NT Ant-Man for $10,000, $15,000 at the beginning of last season or during the season, right? Right before the playoff push, and then you saw that same card, right? I think it was purchased for like 20, 30,000,
Yep.
and then it sell for 90,000, right? So, like, sometimes it is an opportunity to buy low, right? And then hopefully, if that guy turns out or pans out, that you'll be able to sell for a higher percent and flip it. If, right, that's what your goal was for that card to begin with.
Great point, man. I appreciate both of you guys' stories and takes on that. I think it's just important for us to have these conversations because a lot of times, you'll go to your favorite hobby shop and they don't necessarily talk to you about ways to become successful. And that's why you have a place with us here at Prism Guys, the show, where we will talk about the tough questions. We'll talk about the tough scenarios and how we handle those things and how do we move forward because it's important for everybody that you see at the show. We got to keep those guys at the show. We want them to understand that guess what? You're not the only person that took a loss on the card. You're not the only one that's been finagled or finessed or whatever you may want to feel like, right? And it's important for us to understand too, there are cards that are worth holding on to. There are cards that, it's okay to collect. And then knowing how to be a seasoned buyer of a collector, right? And being able to buy the right stuff at the right time. And nobody's great at these things, man. It's one of those things that you just, timing is everything. And if you got the right stuff at the right time, you'll make money. If you're a Kyler Murray collector and you bought it when his stuff was cheaper than what it is right now, guess what? It's an opportunity for you to make money right now to move on. Or if you're a collector, then great. You can buy them and enjoy watching them for the ride. So also I know I saw a bunch of different things on Instagram, but I'll probably get to those later on. We got about 10 more minutes and then we're gonna start answering questions. Check this out. Tomorrow, June 12th, the first episode, I'm sorry, 1 through 8 episodes of the King of Collectibles, the Golden Touch. I want to kind of talk about something positive in the hobby, and I definitely think I want to kind of get you guys' take on it. Did you guys get a chance? First of all, let me ask: did you guys actually watch King of Collectibles last season?
I did, but I honestly think that hopefully season 2 they do a better job. They take the advice of some of the people, and they do better backstories on some of these collectors. The guy, his name was Exquisite 613, the one that they bought the huge collection from out of Puerto Rico.
Oh yeah.
Like they didn't even touch base that dude was the biggest exquisite collector on the planet, right? And when that guy stopped collecting and his collection started to get into the hands of Shine and people like that. Man, they didn't even talk about that collection, right? So I think that if they do decide to bring people on, and I know that's already taped. I'm looking forward to the stories. I'm looking forward to the collections. I was really enthused and was kind of a geekish kind of fan when they showed Carl Malone's Dream Team
Yeah, that
memorabilia
was dope.
collection. So again, I haven't watched any of the trailers to see what they were going to bring on this show, but I think it further broadens our space, right? It further gives more in depth look at how you can make money in this space and what's a collectible, what's not a collectible. It's starting to hit all kinds of sporting outlets, news outlets. It
Yeah.
was on CNN when the Jordan just sold for like $3 million. So all the publicity that we can get on this space, all it's going to do is bring more people into the space, which further broadens our market cap, right, and what we can potentially earn in the future. So very excited for the upcoming show.
Hey Wiz, what you think? You didn't get a chance to watch last season. Why you didn't watch it?
I mean, I watched some. I just couldn't really get into it, man. It's just not. I know it seems a bit staged. It's just not. It's not fluid enough for me. It doesn't seem like genuine, and it doesn't seem like it's natural. And then, like when you just what you just mentioned, like I would watch that because I'm more interested to know that the biggest exquisite collector on the planet and is this dude. Those are things that interest me. Like as far as these items and what they sell for. But I guess for people that are not in the space, maybe that's what draws them. It's just not. It's like to me like Pawn Stars meets sports cards, but it's like not. I don't know if it's organic. It seems like they already done these deals and they're putting people back on the camera and telling them to let's just do it again and run it back. So
Well,
to me, it's just not for me.
I was gonna say that's a great point. It's definitely a great point, but I will say this. I mean, giving flowers to Ken Golden and what he's done with bringing awareness to the space. I mean, with a lot of the numbers that these guys done, obviously he's been doing successful. He was able to get a Netflix deal, was able to flip Golden to 2 different companies, right? And then now I forgot who owns him at this point. Is it eBay? It was PSA, then it was eBay. I don't even know at this point, but I think eBay bought him last. So I mean, even being able to do the things he's done, kudos and shout out to him. I did get a chance to watch the first season of King of Collectibles, and I did watch it. I thought it was a pretty good. I actually like Pawn Stars, so for me, I got a chance.
I love Pawn Stars.
Yeah, so I like Pawn Stars. So being able to kind of see a hobby take of it was kind of entertaining. I did not like it, but I did think it was not really realistic. It really did show the grunt and the grunt. I think they made it was like a glamorous version of what we kind of do, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? But I just feel like it's kind of a little bit unrealistic. And I think that being able, like, I would have liked to had seen us get the backstory about the exquisite guy you mentioned. What's his name, Mark? Just so we
His
reference it
name's
right.
Jim. I forget his last name now.
No,
But
but his name's on Instagram. No, it's Instagram.
Well, I don't know if he has it in Instagram, but I know he has a personal one. His name is Jim, but he used to go by the handle Exquisite 613.
All right, so Exquisite 613. I would have liked to heard. I would have liked to had chase. It would have been dope for them to chase him the entire season and then finally close that deal. You see what I'm saying? I like and then gave the full backstory on who he is to the hobby. Right? That's important because why didn't he sell these cars for 20 years? That's what I want to know. Why didn't he sell the? Like we've had this conversation before in the past, and I think that's why. I think that's why it's important to have these conversations. Unfortunately, like our space has been so transactional for like the last probably 10 years or less, right? It's all about the money. It's all about percentages. It's all about this. It's all about, oh man, like nobody, I feel like to me, it's almost getting to the point, and I hate saying this. I feel like it's becoming unenjoyable for me. For me, like, and I think that, that's kind of like, without going too deep into it right now, I think that's just my take. So it'd be nice to see King of Collectibles turn it into something where it could be beautiful, where it could be something where like we're talking about the art of sports cards. And I look forward to watching the show tomorrow. I will watch the show tomorrow. I'll probably watch I'm probably gonna binge watch it. I'm on my way to Chicago, so I'm probably gonna binge watch it, and get it out the way sometime tonight. And then get my little take on it next week. But I think that, shout out to these guys, Ken Golden and his team. I think they do an amazing job at making our hobby look amazing. But I really wish it'd be focused a little bit more on the storytelling of the collectible space and a little bit less on the transactional space. Because I remember seeing one point where they had to hit 80 million, what was it, 50 or 60 million dollars. Did you remember that part, Mark? Where they literally had to get the $60 million, and I guess the last auction took them over the $60 million for them to hit their goal or whatever. And I was just like, yeah, that's cool and all, but that doesn't really talk about the hobby for me. That just talks about y'all making money, and that's cool. It's just
the beauty of the space. What I will say though is, I said what I said could be perceived as a negative, and I don't want it to be negative, because if you know the story of Ken Golden, what I'm saying, from the beginning, and I'm not going to get into depth of that, but it's a motivational story, from a person, like if like what I hear, because I wasn't there either, but what I hear about Ken Golden and who he was to who he is today, and the hobby has taken him there. I mean, it's definitely motivation, and for people like me, and people that are similar to my situation, those stories drive you on those days where things are not going how you want to go. And I just feel like if you look into Ken Golden's story, man, if he made it through those and I'll say quotation allegations and things like that, and made it to who he is today, man, what does the future look like for a Kobe collector? What does the future look like for a Prizm guy? What does the future look like for a Wiz? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, just keep that in mind. And shout out to King Golden, bro.
Yep, I agree. And I ain't gonna lie, that would have been a doper story for me to learn a backstory about Ken Golden and what his success was and where he pivoted to.
He ain't gonna say that.
He ain't gonna do that though, but that's all right though. We gonna keep it 100, and that's fine.
He ain't gonna do
all
that.
right, so without further ado, we're gonna actually talk about our final thoughts for the entire show. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Next week we actually have Jess from Bleecker Trading out of New York. She's gonna be on the show. This might be the first female we got on the show for next week, Mark.
Not a sneaker.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right. I apologize. This is our second female for the show. Looking forward to talking to her about Bleecker Trading, the brand, and everything they got going on. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we'll also answer a couple questions. So feel free to throw some questions in the chat. If we missed it, sorry. Re-put it in there. We're going to answer some questions. Any final thoughts, you guys, on anything we talked about today?
And I'll just go to show, man. Look, we go on here. We give our honest opinions. We give our honest truths, right? We're not always going to agree on everything, which makes it exciting, man. You gotta, at the end of the day, we're not robots, right? No one is expected to think the same way just because we hang out with each other. We all have different buying patterns. We all have different buying strategies. Hell, we all have different budgets, right? And not everybody can be Ralph, right? But I will say this, man, and I've said it, and I'll say
Michael
it to
Jordan's cousin
in the face, man. I've actually gone all in, right? So my approach is I throw as many dollars as I can at this hobby as I can, and try to reel back as many as I can on the opposite end. And to last week was a really tough week. Lost out on a lot of money, lost out on some cards, right? Got lost in the mail. It was just real tough, man. But if you keep a positive energy, if you keep a positive attitude, and you just keep putting one foot in front of the other, man, good things are going to happen. And I surround myself with like-minded people who want to grow and soar and reach higher limits than what they can even envision for themselves. And shout out to Wiz, shout out to Ralph, shout out to everyone who just breathes positivity into you, and to be able to be successful in this space, man. I always say it, man. If you guys ever need any kind of advice, people always reach out to me to ask for my opinion on how a car would grade, or even as simple as a trade deal, right? They'll reach out and get my opinion. Now, I don't claim to be an expert at anything,
You
right?
do.
But through life experiences, right, and being able to walk through the different scenarios that you guys are presenting me with, I can give an educated guess, right, or an educated response to whatever questions that you guys ask. So hopefully, you guys can respect or don't respect, right, the opinion or advice I give you, man. But I do appreciate all the feedback that we get, when we're at shows, right, or in our Instagram feeds and our in our Facebook
Face
Messenger,
back.
text messengers, whatever the case is, man. However you're reaching out to us, man, I appreciate all the feedback.
There you go. Hey, all right. Is there anything you want to say, Wiz, before we get off, and answer a couple questions before we get off?
I don't really have any final thoughts at the moment, man. Hobby to the moon. Man, you guys stay out here, man, and man, keep grinding, bro, until you get to where you gotta go, or
There
till
you
you where you
go.
want to be, man. What I will say is, man, I think for anybody, man, whatever you want to do in this space, man, it's possible. I think if you want to be like King Golden, you want to be like Ralph, get your Cybertruck, man. Go out there and
Don't
get
be
your
like me.
Cybertruck, bro.
I
The
know. I
same you
don't
want
know
to be
what you're
like,
talking about.
if you
That's
want
a
to be like
spaceship,
Mark,
man.
if you want to be like Mark, bro, you know what I'm saying, and running up on those auction sites, man, be like Mark, man. If you want to be like Wiz and get you some glasses that flip, do that.
There you go.
I'm
So,
out.
hey, so Archadamus Picks actually mentioned C.J. Stroud. I guess thinking. Guess what's your take, real quick, on C.J. Stroud, Homer?
Homer, I think they did a lot this offseason, man, to set that team up for a lot of years to come. And I'm gonna be honest with you, man, for a lot of years there, really not a homer in regards to the Texans or a fan of the Texans. But I will say this, man, when they brought in the new head coach and D'Amico Ryans, he changed the culture of that team. He changed the organization of that team. He's really put his footprint on that team, man, because of him, right? And what he brought from that umbrella over there in San Francisco. I think that we're going to see an exciting team for years to come. And hopefully we can win a championship in the next year or two. And because CJ Stroud's going to be at the forefront of that team and all the success that are going to come with them, I think that's an excellent pick. And that's an excellent guy to buy if you can find him for the right price, depending on your budget.
Yeah, he costs too much. That's fine. Keep going.
All right, just buy Bryce Young.
Right. No, I wasn't gonna say that. Keep going. Wiz, any final
Nah, yo,
thoughts on
I
C.J.
think
Stroud?
I think man, they dropped the ball on DY. You know what I'm saying? So I think at the end of the day, like, this is their second chance. You know what I'm saying? Second opportunity. So I think that a lot of eyes is on that GM and on that organization. Because we're going to find out if it was his fault or if it was Deshaun Watson's fault. You know what I'm saying? I think that C.J. Stroud, which being like a prototype quarterback of Deshaun Watson, is like one and the same. So I think that this time we're going to see, in life, you don't always get a second chance. This organization has got a second chance. So hopefully they run it up with C.J. Stroud. As far as buying C.J. Stroud, I don't really buy hype, man. I wait till it calms down. Like, I would buy hype, like, if it's, super rare cards. Those are the ones that really would entertain me. But if it's not, like, super low number, I'm really not into it because the hype, man, that's an easy way for me to get burnt. You know what I'm saying? And I don't really like the idea of getting a card and having to run around like, would you buy my car? Will you buy my car? I did a lot of that.
All right, so Rob says, if you guys are going to hold something for 3 to 5 years, do you guys have any suggestions? Yes, I do. Don't be afraid to buy Michael Jordan. Exquisite Michael Jordan. Period. Like, I've literally been preaching that for like the last 2 weeks now, and that's literally how I feel, because I feel like that stuff is continually, you don't see it often, and even if you can't afford exquisite Michael Jordan autographs, as far as we know, I don't think he's doing any signings with Topps yet.
He
And if
did
we
a
do,
private signing.
well, he did do a private signing, but that's not pack pooled though. It's not pack pooled. So I feel like being able to have some of these limited rare numbered, I would say 23 or 25 or less, Jordan autos are really good buys. And again, if you can't afford that, you know what are really good right now? His 96 through his 90, was it his 90 inserts and PSA 9s of the right cards are probably good ones to have too, because PSA 10s of the right cards are doing crazy numbers. You know what I'm saying? You just do your research and see what's going on with the Jordan insert era. This stuff is going crazy. I mean, Michael Jordan is still considered the greatest basketball player ever. And so, as far as I'm concerned, he's a great buy to hold on for 3 to 5 years if you want to buy something now. Another one is probably Mickey Mantle. I mean, Babe Ruth. I mean, you're not this. These are things you won't see very often. But I guess probably a lighter. How would you guys answer a lighter question with that? Because for the people who can't afford to buy those people I just mentioned.
Well, like you just said, it's less volatility with guys who are no longer playing, right? Wiz just said he doesn't buy the hype, and a lot of the cards that are selling for big numbers right now are hype cards. Anything can happen, right? An injury, a bad season, things like that could actually hurt the market for any player in this day and age. So I think the safer bet, right, the less riskier bet is to buy vintage, buy those older players who already made the mark. But if we're going to step out on the ledge here, just take a look at some of the stars in the game today, right? And I gravitate towards basketball because that's where I watch, majority of the games at, right? So if you look at a guy like Ant-Man, if you look at a guy at John Morant, as long as those guys stay healthy, the sky's the limit for those guys, and they're still relatively cheap to get into. If you look at a guy like C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson, right? And if you follow sports enough, you know that quarterbacks are what sells and what holds value in NFL. And I did see another question in regards to why does basketball outsell baseball?
I saw that.
Um, to put it blunt, baseball's boring to some people, right? And people want to see the action, and so they follow the excitement.
Don't say that. You can't say that. I'm just messing with you.
And so a lot of the times, right, what you see is there's a hype train, right? There's more prospecting in baseball than any other sport, I believe. And so everybody's buying the Bowman draft train, right? And believe it or not, they'll never live up to the hype. And so that's why you kind of see that downward spiral on baseball cards, is because everybody's so invested on this hype train, and they don't get there, and they don't do. Look at Torkelson right now, man. That dude went up, and he's all the way back down again. So
not even just that. It's 82 games. I'm sorry, not 82 games. Right? How many games in a baseball season? I can't even keep up.
It's 162.
All right, 162. I'm sorry, I was thinking about basketball. 82.
I'm supposed to watch that.
160 games. Not gonna lie to you, that's very strenuous, and I think that, like, how much respect to the people who did it for a long period of time. That goes back to what we said a minute ago. If I'm doing baseball, I'm probably doing vintage baseball, unless I get something hyped and I'm just in and out of it really quickly. But long term, I'm looking for your Mickey Mantles and your Satchel Pages and your Jackie Robinsons. Those are my cards that I'm into, and they just do really well.
Can I touch on what dude said? The 3 to 5 years to hold. It just depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for, upside? Are you looking for security? I feel like it's like any type of, like, I look at this stuff like kind of like stocks, where, man, if you're looking for security, then it'll be blue chips, like they're saying vintage. But it's like if you're looking for upside, man, I can't really give you those names. I can't give out financial advice, but at the end of the day, man, you would have to find those diamonds in the rough, man. It's people that people collected, and it always comes to my mind, man, because that puzzles me too. I think about, rest in peace, Big Jesse. If you go through his collection, man, it's Jokic in there, it's players in there, and I'm like, damn, how the hell did he have, the foresight to buy this man cheap? And then now it's like, this stuff is worth, what it's worth today. I think that's a true skill. Like, even with this dude, this way, what I'm saying, with this dude, to buy certain people, man, and just have, like Mark was saying, the foresight, bro, that's a gift. What I'm saying? And it's like, everybody doesn't have that gift. Because this is a follow the leader type of space. So it's like, if you're not afraid to jump out there and say, hey, Jalen Green's my guy, or hey, Tokenson's my guy, or hey, this is my guy, because you'll be surprised how many people are looking for a shepherd to lead them. You know what I'm saying? How many sheep are out here looking for a shepherd? So it's like, hey, this dude just said Jalen Green, so now the whole hobby gravitates to that. Or this dude just said, this guy, So at the end of the day, man, like I said, man, the biggest thing, no one has the answers for you, bro. The biggest thing, man, take that risk. Man, high risk, high reward, man. And
I agree.
Last thing I'll say, man, whatever your worst case scenario is, man, capture that. Man, analyze your worst case scenario. And if your worst case scenario is, sleeping on a friend's couch or sleeping at your mom's house or whatever the case may be, why are you not chasing your dreams, bro? It's people living under bridges, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, just man, risk, bro. Risk it, bro.
All right. So Coach J says, what about the Lions? They come in no matter what. Y'all got any take on that? I would say Detroit played really well last year. They played really well last year. I expect them to do really well this year. That's it. That's my 2 cents. So I would say, I like to give kids nice. Amon-Ra's nice. That team looked really well, and they looked like they could have beat the 49ers. They just got Brock Purdy. That's it.
Yeah, you leveraged all the way across on quarterbacks there, man. It's like you couldn't decide on what you want, so you just got them all. The saying, if you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't got one. So you spread out all the way through. It's like you picked next year's Super Bowl winner just by buying all of them.
All right, so I wanted to say also, guys, if you want to catch your new era Chicago White Sox / Atlanta hat colorway comes out this Friday. I haven't really announced anything yet. I said I was going to tell you guys. So the hat comes out on Friday. I'll be dropping the link on my Instagram page. It'll be on a new website. Y'all don't know the website, so don't even try. But it's a very limited release. It's probably 100 hats or less. That's all I can guarantee. So feel free to make sure you buy your hat. You're not going to be able to buy this hat anywhere else but through us. So make sure you guys buy this special hat. It's a new era hat. It's legit. It's beautiful. Love this thing. Pretty proud of it, man. So appreciate you guys chiming into the show. If we have no other questions, let's see. Call the buyer says,
I do have a question, man.
What's up?
I do have a question. This one's to Ralph Prizm God.
Sure.
How are you feeling about that Dallas pick?
What are you talking about?
Mavericks.
The Dallas pick. Oh, to win it all?
Yeah.
Oh, honestly, I feel like Boston won the games they were supposed to win. They won at home. I think we didn't get a chance. I think when we watched the series before, it was kind of reversed for the Mavericks. I mean, they lost some games they probably shouldn't have lost, and they won some games they weren't. They won some games they probably shouldn't have won. Because I definitely think Ant-Man and Minnesota jagged a couple of games that could have probably helped them. In this series, if they lose game 3 in Dallas, I believe they're going to get swept. If they win the first game, obviously they have a better chance, but I definitely think it helps them, right? Because if it gets to the point to where they win game 3, now it's one game from being back to 500 again. Now it's the first who can win 2 after that. So I'm still going to root for Luka because I like Luka. I do like Jaylen Brown. Man, Ian, the guy who does video editing for us, he actually was like, man, you really don't like Boston? And I'm like, but I will say, man, Boston, the way Boston playing is amazing. But did y'all hear about the news today that they're saying Porzingis will be out for the rest of the finals?
That's a big blow, man.
That sounds Porzingis-like.
You see what I'm saying? And so
but I will say this though,
go ahead.
Right? Game 2 was a blueprint, right, of how the Boston Celtics need to play to beat the Mavericks because
Porzingis is hurt. I think he's out.
2. He wasn't as effective game 2 as he was game 1.
No.
They had other players outside of Tatum and Jaylen Brown step up both games, right? The first game was Porzingis. The second game was Drew Holiday. And, man, I'm really impressed with that kid, man. He guards really good, and he can make a shot when they need him to make a shot. So I still liking my pick, man. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not out for the entire finals, but he's definitely out for game 3. So that kind of seems like they kind of leveraging the fact of being able to give Luka a game 3. Hopefully he wins game 4 with that confidence of game 3. And then now we're back to 2-2. And I think we initially said, I think if the game goes 6, it'll probably be Boston. But if it goes 7, I think Dallas is going to probably play balls to the walls and win in 7. So I basically, that's how I'm thinking. 6, Boston, 7, I would say it says let's say also is Drew the MVP. I would say honestly, I think the MVP is going to probably end up being Jaylen Brown when it's all said and done. In my opinion, he's the best person on the floor.
Now, I don't know. I think Luka's the best player on the floor.
Okay, well,
Boston's
best
the
player
best
on the
team.
floor. Okay, well, I'm talking about for Boston. The man
Okay.
plays both sides of the ball. He pretty much single-handedly did what Ant-Man couldn't do with shutting down Kyrie Irving. I mean, like
I
Kyrie ain't the
think,
same
but
player.
I think being in Boston though, man, like that's a big issue, bro. I think him in Boston, just the relationship and the connection that he has to Boston, I think sometimes can play a mental effect on Kyrie. Like if Kyrie would drop 30 in the first game, they would have won by 3. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what he dropped in the second game. I was on a plane and I didn't see the stats. I only seen the end of the game. But I think that if he can get over that mental hump, you know, because he left there, you know, when Tatum and Brown first came to the league. So it's a lot of history he has with Boston. So I think if he can overcome that, I think we see him win 3 and 4, and then I think hopefully they lose. Not say hopefully, then they lose 6, and then they take it home for 7.
Nice.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
think so.
so on that note, we pretty much gave y'all picks for basketball. And I said I wasn't going to talk about basketball, but Mark just keeps wanting to talk about basketball. Godly, I was trying to give it a break, but it's all good. So really appreciate Wiz you joining us for tonight.
Thank you for
We'll bring
having
you
me.
on. I'm sure we'll bring you on another some point in time. You know, maybe you make you a permanent fill-in.
Man, hey baby,
Love you, Wiz, man.
man,
I
thank you,
love
bro.
everything that you bring to the hobby, to the space, man, to the crew.
Yeah,
I like the differentiation and the dynamic that you bring, man. And kudos to you and all your success. Excited to see where you go in your lane. And I saw the baby there, man. Be sure to give a
Oh,
kiss and
oh yeah,
a
for
hug
sure,
to that little one, man.
mm-hmm.
for sure. Man,
No, that's
hopefully I'm
dope.
going straight to the bank, baby.
There you go. So like
I'm
ultimately,
gonna throw this
man,
out here though. Let me
go
throw this.
ahead.
Yo, can we get Vic Carter Buyer on the show, bro? Can we get Carter Buyer on
Oh,
the
you
show,
know
bro?
what? You know
He's
what?
always in the crowd, man. Can we get Carter Buyer,
You
man?
know,
I would
we'll
love
get
to.
caller. We'll
To hear
definitely
his
do that.
story live, man. His story is motivational. You know what I'm saying? Call the buyer, man. You know, man, where he came from, bro. I used to see him running around. You know what I mean? Like a little poop putt, man. Now, you know, he's a big boss. He's a big boss.
Buyer, bro. Hey,
He's a
you
big
know what?
boss.
I definitely agree with trying to get Carter Buyer on there. There's definitely a few people I've reached out to, but sometimes, man, through my week, I ain't gonna lie because I go to shows through the weekend. By the time I come home, I usually forget to hit people up. But luckily, I hit Jess yesterday. With Bleecker Trading, she's gonna be a part of the show the next week. And then after that, we'll probably try to get somebody else on. We supposed to still have DJ Ski on here at some point. So
Damn.
that's gonna be interesting
Hey,
to talk about
that's
collections
my
as well.
guy. My
Hey,
11th grade year with the game, bro, and the mixtape and the Beef with G Unit, bro. DJ Ski, bro. Man, I met him in person though, bro. Yeah, I'm super fan of hip hop, bro.
all right. So one more thing
For
before
sure.
we go. Show me one pickup of the week if you guys have one. I'm gonna show you
I ain't
one.
got none.
Hold on. Huh, 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 huh. This ain't of the week, man. I showed this card 1,001 times, but I'm gonna show it again, bro. For the MLB, man. The Josh Gibson
That's a
moment
good one to
first,
show. That's a great one to show.
number 5, bro. They talk all that talk, bro. Look up what a Mickey Mantle PSA 1 does, and look up what a Josh Gibson PSA 1 does, man. That we don't have to talk anymore about any debates.
There you go. All right. Well, I'm gonna go left since you went right. I'm gonna go left. My pickup of the week.
Ooh.
See, I got on that. I got on that checklist, man. I ain't get picked.
You said what?
I said I got on that list. I didn't get picked.
You
Man, I
never
ain't got to
picked.
get picked, man. You know how we do it. But hey, that was my pickup of the week. You got one, Mark, before we go.
I ain't got one, man.
All right. So on that note, guys, we appreciate everybody chiming in, being a part of the show. Tonight, I think we had a successful night. We had over 20, 30 people in the chat for Instagram before we got cut off. We have 10 people with you guys, and I think we peaked around 20 on here. We appreciate you guys chiming in. And on that note, good night.
Now,